Mike Conley is going to be one of the more coveted free agents this summer, coming off of his first All-Star appearance of his illustrious career. He is, however, aging. He is now nearly 34 years old as of when he is going to be signing his new contract. And so the deal he's going to get is going to be interesting given his age and injury concerns through the back half of the year. But there's definitely a lot of demand for point guards this offseason, and he's going to be one of the top names of the list. And there's quite a few teams that could be interested in acquiring a starting point guard. And we're going to be talking about some of those teams and whether they could get him or not, and the fit within those rosters in this video. That being said, if you guys do enjoy the video, feel free to leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you do enjoy NBA content like this. With that being said, let's get right into it. And so, first off, we're just going to talk about his fit within the Utah Jazz and if Utah are going to be able to retain him. There seems to be some level of mutual interest in Conley wanting to come back to Utah and Utah wanting to keep Mike Conley. However, I don't think it's a scenario where Conley is just a lock to come back to Utah. I think he's strongly considering his options. And so I think there's definitely a lot of scenarios in which he could leave Utah. I think his fit there is good. It allows Donovan Mitchell to have someone that can do a bit more of the ball handling, do a bit more of the playmaking, because it wasn't always like that for Donovan Mitchell, and he can do it, but he is best as a scorer and someone who can just focus more on scoring and not have to be the primary point guard. And so that is very beneficial for them to have around. His experience, his leadership, his ability to make shots, create for himself, create for others, hit some three-point shots. He can still offer you some fairly good perimeter defense. Of course, not as good as it was however many years ago in his prime, but he can still offer you some good perimeter defense at the guard position as well. And so I think Mike Conley is very useful to this Utah team, and they're obviously going to look to retain him. The New York Knicks are also going to be a team that I would expect to be interested in him, as they are heavily rumored to be interested in acquiring a good veteran point guard, because Tom Thibodeau does not want to run back with Elfrid Payton. He likes his veterans. He's not going to start Emmanuel Quickley at point guard. This is not going to happen. And so whether they bring back Derrick Rose and he then starts, some talks about them being interested in John Wall. They could make a move for Kyle Lowry. They could make a move for Mike Conley. They could make a move for Goran Dragic. They have a lot of options, but Mike Conley is definitely someone I would expect them to consider. It adds some three-point shooting on the team. Again, not that Mike Conley is an elite-level three-point shooter, but this is one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the league, specifically amongst the teams that were in the playoffs this year, and that's something that they're gonna look to improve, and it would give them a nice boost on the offensive end while maintaining a good defensive system for this Knicks team, someone I think Tom Thibodeau would absolutely love to have. Another option would be the Miami Heat. Kendrick Nunn is a restricted free agent, and Goran Dragic could potentially leave Miami as well this summer as a free agent. And so Miami are going to have to figure out what they want to do with their point guard position moving into next year, and Mike Conley could be someone that fills that void. Of course, again, they could be interested in someone like Kyle Lowry as well, or someone along those lines. But Mike Conley fits the role. He offers them some good hustle, effort, and defense, something that is just part of that Miami Heat culture, and that team always has been, and especially is right now with Jimmy Butler there. He offers them a good playmaking point guard that can take a bit of the load off of Jimmy Butler as far as being the primary ball handler. See if Jimmy Butler can get his three-point shot back a bit more, as more of a catch-and-shoot guy and get the ball out of his hands a bit more. Not that Jimmy was necessarily always the primary ball handler this year, but I think Mike Conley is much more of a playmaking guard than Goran Dragic is, at least at this point in time in his career, and especially Kendrick Nunn, who's much more of just a pure out-and-out scorer. I'm not taking away from Goran Dragic's playmaking there. I still think he's very good, but I think Goran Dragic is Mike Conley is another level in that respect. So I definitely would see Miami having some interest in that, and I think the fit works well there as well. The last team we're going to mention is the Dallas Mavericks, who are also heavily rumored to want a point guard. Because, let's just be honest, they need someone on that team that can create their own shot on the perimeter and create for others that isn't Luka Doncic. That's just a fact. And they have a bit of it in Jalen Brunson off the bench, but that's about it. Dorian Finney-Smith had a very good end of the season in playoffs and a good regular season in general, but really came on hot towards the back end of the year. But he's not creating for others or creating his own shot, really. Josh Richardson really hasn't gotten back to his form in Miami. His offensive game just hasn't been there at the level you would like it to. Tim Hardaway Jr. has been very good, and he can create his own shot a bit, but he's a free agent this year, nor is he a primary ball handler who's creating for others. And so I think having that guard could be very valuable for Dallas moving into next year. And so I think it definitely makes sense for Dallas Mavericks to be interested in Mike Conley. It probably improves their defense a bit as well, which is something that they do need to continue improving. Gives them a good guard defender. Allows Luka to be a little bit more off the ball. Not that Luka is going to be heavily off the ball, but it allows him to maybe take an extra few minutes off the court in a game because they have another primary ball handler that's not just Jalen Brunson. It allows him to have a starting player that can take some weight off of Luka Doncic if he needs to take a possession off on offense to take a rest. If they want to run him on some off-ball screens to try and open him up for something in the mid-range, to try and get him involved in a screen and then get him the ball, and then they can do a roll from there off of the screener with Powell or Porzingis if he stays, which is unlikely, but if he does. It opens more options for Luka Doncic to get involved in the offense and be more creative, and just allows for more sets and scenarios in which Luka can be productive, as opposed to just having him always be the primary ball handler, where it can be a bit easier to defend when that's the only thing you really have. So I think it definitely makes sense for Dallas to like Mike Conley as well. And I think generally speaking, Mike Conley just fits into a lot of teams very well. I don't think Mike Conley is someone that is hard to fit into a system. He's just a very, very good player. He's a glue guy. He fits in well. He can play some defense for you. He can play make. He can hit some shots. And I think wherever he ends up, he's going to be very valuable. If I had to lay money, I think he does go back to Utah. But you could probably call it either way. He could end up back in Utah. He could end up moving. If I had to lay money right now, he's probably going to Utah. Or back to Utah. But let me know what you guys think about where Mike Conley could and will be going this summer. Hope you guys have enjoyed the video. Feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you did enjoy. And check the link with my socials down below if you want to join me anywhere else. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And I'll see you guys in the next one.